You're going to hear that our system is broken. You're going to hear the Constitution is broken. You're going to hear that a government of, by, and for the people has had its day. And instead, you're going to hear that we have to turn over our lives to a cabal of 535 politicians and unelected deep state operatives that they all created, who will henceforth tell you and your family what to do, how much money you can keep, and the freedoms which you are allowed to exercise. The truth is, the Constitution didn't go anywhere. We've just stopped electing people who think they are bound by it. The end of the American system. That's our focus in today's preamble. The government has lost the trust of we, the people, and the government has earned that distrust. Let's start with what once was the Republican Party. They can't elect a speaker. The most recent rejection was arguably the most effective at opposing Democrats and the most conservative speaker we have seen since Newt Gingrich, Jim Jordan. Now, one of the moderates, Don Bacon of Nebraska, jumped on a left-wing network. Of course, it was a left-wing network, to tell us why the moderates opposed Jordan.
You have some group that's worked with him going back 10 years, and they've worked with him on appropriations. More senior folks where he's created a lot of chaos.
Oh, yes. He caused chaos in appropriations. In other words, the money. You all know the saying, follow the money. Well, let's do that, shall we? Here's a look at the work your senators and House of Representatives have been doing as they've set our country on autopilot on massive, irresponsible, and dangerous overspending that is a direct threat to our nation's existence. Our pals at Zero Hedge did a little analysis from just 1 month of overspending of your government. That's the part of the spike right there you see on the screen, right there on the right-hand side. Total U.S. debt is now $33.64 trillion. That's up from $33 trillion just a month ago. Your government has overspent as much as $58 billion in 1 day and up to $604 billion in 1 month. On average, that's overspending $20 billion every day. That's $833 million they overspend every hour. At this rate, Zero Hedge calculates that the U.S. debt will reach $41 trillion in 1 year. As we've told you before, once the debt hits $50 trillion, the interest payments on the debt will exceed what we spend on national defense. And we simply don't have enough money to handle the constitutional funding of government, much less the extra constitutional spending your politicians have piled onto our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. You heard Bacon. Guys like Jim Jordan get in the way of the pigs feeding at the taxpayer-funded trough. I've been told there are various reasons why 22 Republicans went on record opposing conservatism's return to the Speaker's chair. But one of the big reasons is many folks in the Republican Party just love the Democrats' overspending. It's a massive payday that turned people like the late Senator Harry Reid from a poor congressman to a multimillionaire and land baron before he left the Senate. Now that some of these Republicans have been voted in, they think, hey, it's my turn. There will be no talk of reducing overspending. There will certainly be no discussion of stopping deficit overspending. There will be no talk of limited constitutional government. Instead, Matt Gaetz, Tim Burchett, and other conservatives, they are to be shunned, demonized, and marginalized for attempting to instill sanity. And those who support the Democrats' destruction in exchange for a payday will be lauded and applauded by the left wing. And those who don't want to disrupt the fleecing of taxpayers, by causing all of that chaos. Speaking of chaos, let's turn to the Democrats. Their anti-Israeli spawn took over the U.S. Capitol yesterday, demanding the U.S. stop Israel from attacking the terror group Hamas. The Hamas-surrection saw the disruption of official proceedings of Congress, which is illegal.
Now is not the time to play political games. We need to make sure that the other nations and terrorist groups do not...
Now is not the time to play political games. How many bombs need to be dropped on Gaza before we over a ceasefire? How many children need to be killed? Our families are dying. Our families are dying. We need a ceasefire now. We need a ceasefire now. Ceasefire.
As I said, now is not the time to play political games. We need to make sure that other nations and terrorist groups do not exploit the crisis and open new fronts in the conflict. We need to be clear with everyone, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the regime in Iran to Assad in Syria and even Putin in Russia. Don't even think about joining or expanding the war.
Okay. Yeah, 22 years for that guy. No, it won't be. The Hamas insurrectionists, they violated Section 1512, Section C, Paragraph 2 of Title 18 of the U.S. Code. That section applies to whomever, quote, obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so, end quote. Officials on Capitol Hill sought to normalize and excuse the law-breaking you just saw by calling it a First Amendment activity. You know, funny, the last time folks had partaken in a First Amendment activity on January 6th, they called it an insurrection. Indeed, it appears that people who never even set foot in the Capitol on January 6th, like Brandon Straka, will have been treated far more harshly by our government than left-wing extremists hell-bent on destroying the Jewish state. Don't look to the Republican Party, by the way, to call out this obvious double standard of justice. Many of them think that would cause too much chaos. This was the reaction as the Hamsurrection was happening live right here on Newsmax yesterday.
They're insurrectionists, and each one needs to be arrested and then, put in solitary confinement, have their, trials delayed, and serve years in a prison cell. That's what I think of this.
Mark, what do you think?
I celebrate the First Amendment, and I don't see any violence there. But I do think the symbolism of this is horrendous.
By the way, the GOP was accused by their good friends, the Democrat Party, of aiding a so-called insurrection on January 6th. But yesterday, Democrats actually joined the Hamas insurrection. Here's Rashida M.F. Tlaib contradicting both the U.S. intelligence agencies and the Israeli military on who is responsible for bombing that hospital in Gaza.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital with children. You know what's so hard sometimes is watching those videos and the people telling the kids don't cry. I'm like, let them cry. They can cry. I can cry. We all can cry. If we're not crying, something is wrong. President Biden, not all America's with you on this one. And you need to wake up and understand that.
And that leads us to the compromised in more ways than one occupier of the Oval Office, Joe Biden. He's committed your taxpayer dollars toward funding both sides of yet another conflict, giving money to Israel and to Gaza. Here's Joe Biden, his take on the attack on the hospital that U.S. and Israeli forces say was a Hamas rocket.
How about the hospital, sir? People all over the region are upset about the hospital and don't necessarily believe you or the Israelis that they didn't have anything to do with it. Do you have a message to the people in the streets right now?
Well, I can understand why in this circumstance they wouldn't believe. I can understand that. And look, and I'm not suggesting that Hamas deliberately did it either. That's that old thing, gotta know how to shoot straight.
Okay. So Joe Biden, the leader of the Democrat Party, leaps to the defense of Hamas, saying, hey, he would never accuse them of intentionally bombing a Palestinian hospital. And then Joe Biden encourages the Hamas killers to learn to shoot straight so they can more accurately kill Jews. Now, if the picture I just painted makes it seem like our government is dominated by crazy, selfish, anti-Western elements, that's because it is. From the dangerous overspending to whacked-out foreign policy to both parties being equally committed to overspending us into oblivion, it all points to a people who allowed the worst, least gifted, and immoral people among us to attain this kind of power. I'm here to tell you that there's got to be a reason, folks, why people in the know, like, I don't know, Senator Bob Menendez, they're hoarding cash and gold in their homes. Maybe now isn't the best time for the primary voters to be sitting on the sidelines?